You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Curlop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host, Miss Allie Garcet. What up, Allie?
What's up, Craig? How are you?
I am doing fantastic, especially after this amazing episode today. And I'm actually just coming back from basically like 2-ish weeks of vacation, which when you're a real estate agent, there's not really a true vacation, but I was out of the routine, which felt nice, climbing mountains and riding jet skiing on boats and playing disc golf. I was telling you earlier with a professional disc golfer, which I tied on 9 of the 18 holes we played, like the back 9 we tied. And so I was feeling pretty good at the end of that round. So
Good for you. I'm glad you were out there having the time of your life. Meanwhile, I was here missing you. I'm like, man, I even reached out to the team. I'm like, have I missed an episode? I miss Craig. And they're like, Craig's on vacation.
yeah, sorry, Allie. Maybe next time you can join us for our vacation and we can be on boats and do disc golf.
I have never, but I really want to. However, you don't want to be on my team. I'm very, very bad at Frisbee. Wow. Yeah.
I don't think there's teams, so I think we'll be good there. I'll just be playing against you.
Are there no teams?
Yeah,
Oh, you're solo? Okay.
maybe there's a way to play as a team. I've only ever played like just by myself, like not by myself, but with others against each other. But it's just fun competition, so no big deal. But yeah, Allie, what's been new with you? Any big stuff? Any new life events other than you moved in? You're no longer in your kitchen. You're now in your future kid's bedroom. But
No kids, but I am in a kid's bedroom. So yeah, we bought the model home. So it came with this wallpaper and which I want to take off. It's not like the nice background of what I used to have, but slowly but surely working on it. At least I'm no longer in the kitchen. As far as updates go, I paid off a property. I'm working already on paying off another one. And my wife actually is starting to work with me. So she is out and about, like starting to help me out with some agent stuff of what she can do, right? Like not every task. Some tasks have to be agent license, specific. But yeah, we're exploring what working together would be like.
wow. So wait, you paid. So I know you started doing the shred method, and you paid off a whole property, like what was it, $120,000 or something like that?
Yeah, it was 121. The balance of when I started the shred method, the original balance was like 160-ish. And I also paid off my car as well. They say to pay off the car first. I'm like, I didn't want to, the interest rate was so low, but hey, I'm just going to trust the process. So paid off the car, paid off the mortgage. And now right after this, I'm going to call the county and see how I can start paying the taxes, directly since the taxes are no longer going to be paid through escrow.
Amazing. Look at that. I'm actually gonna I'm just getting started with that process. I'm still talking with 2 different companies. There's the shred, and then there's this other company that my friend runs, and so I'm just kind of like exploring both. But yeah, I'm all on board with this as well. So absolutely love it. Cool. Well, we've got a really amazing guest today. His name is Kyle Swengel.
Swengel.
Swengel. I can never pronounce his last names. But Kyle's got an amazing story, and I just love it because it's like super simple, but then it gets more complex as we go. And so make sure. And at the end, actually, he drops a bomb that I really am gonna take into consideration moving forward. But I'm not going to drop that here. I'm going to let him drop it for you later in the episode. So make sure you're listening all the way to the end. And with that, let's bring on Mr. Kyle Swengel. And before we get to Kyle, though, would you please, please, please leave us a rating and review? It helps our podcast tremendously grow. It allows us to bring on more guests to better serve you. And then the more guests we have, the more reviews you get, and then the better guests we get as well. So it's this never-ending cycle. Please drop us a review. Let us know how we're doing, and let's bring Kyle onto the show.
Are you coming to BPCon this year? If so, make sure to go to thefiteam.com/BPCon to sign up for this free dinner at Bahama Breeze from 6 to 9 p.m. on October 16th. This is going to be a 100% free dinner. We just want to get everybody from the Investify community and the house hacking and Fi Team community together all in one place. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get everybody. Seats are extremely limited. So be sure to go to thefiteam.com/BPCon, fill out a form, and we'll let you know within 24 to 48 hours before the event whether or not you've got a seat at the table. Thanks so much, and we'll see y'all there.
Kyle Swengel, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today, bro?
Doing well. Good to meet you guys. Obviously, I know Allie, but good to meet you there.
Yeah, it's good to meet you too, man. I know that both you guys are in the hot and steamy Tucson, Arizona. You know, the one good thing about Tucson I hear is that like you don't really need to buy a sauna there. You can just like go sit in your car probably, right? Just put it out in the driveway.
We say it's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's how we cope with it. Yep.
That's how it's justified. Yeah. Do you get like bloody noses and stuff just kind of coming out everywhere or
Coming out everywhere. That sounds like a horror movie, but no. We do all right. You get used to it. It just takes a little bit of time. It's the people that are fresh here that are complaining about it. Us locals are used to it now.
Man, I've been here for 5 years and I still get bloody noses randomly now. It's crazy.
It's a different environment.
I was in Tucson in like May of last year, I think, and it was like 104 degrees, and I was just like, it is May. It should not be that hot yet. But you guys are different type of humans down there. So, but I think we're all different types of humans for being on this show and investing in real estate and going the different route. And Kyle, we want to hear when you first started becoming a different type of human and how you first started about financial independence.
Yeah, so like a lot of people, I kind of got the bug in my ear a while back in 2016 when I rented a room from my buddy who combat search and rescue pilot in the Air Force. And in pilot training, I was renting a room from my buddy who owned a house while we were going through pilot training. And he told me that at one point I was living with him for like 4 months at this point. He was like, "Hey, yeah, so do you want to know anything about real estate?" And I'm like, "Yeah, talk to me about it." He's like, "Yeah, so you're paying $800 or whatever it was. I think it was like $700 for a room at my place." He's like, "My mortgage is $750," and that just like blew my mind. I'm like, wait. So like I'm paying for one room in your house, and trust me, it was a good deal. I liked his house. I liked rooming with him, whatever. But when I realized that I was paying essentially his whole mortgage for him, I was like, there's something here, you know, like I didn't know that there was a way to live so cheaply. So that kind of put the bug in my ear, and he told me about Bigger Pockets podcasts and forum, and he told me about, you know, Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad and stuff. And that's what got the bug in my ear. But I didn't actually pick up anything until about 3 years later in 2019 when I was like, hey, I actually got to make some moves here. So that's when I decided, all right, at the end of my lease, I'm going to go ahead and buy a house.
So what took you so long?
It just wasn't I don't know, you know, it just wasn't a priority. I was focused on my job. I was focused on all these other things, and I had enough money to be comfortable at the time. You know, I just didn't see it as a thing. Also, I was like moving around a lot with the military, which actually could have been a great opportunity if I would have used that to do primary residence loans as I was going through my pipeline.
I think it's really interesting that, you know, you read a book or you talk to a friend or whatever, and it kind of like it sits with you. The seed is planted, but it takes a while for it to kind of grow. And I've given, you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad to a handful of my friends, and I noticed that they don't take action for multiple years and maybe even never. And I'm just always curious as to like why not just move now? But that's the thing is like life happens, right? And I'm not going to say, and so you guys listening, so maybe this is the bug in your ear, right? And maybe you're still trying to do your first deal. Maybe you want to get going. Like get started now, because I guarantee you, Kyle, like if you could have started in 2016, like, would you have, or are you happy that you started in 2019?
It's a no-brainer. Yeah. I mean, my life would be drastically different if I would have started at that time.
Yeah, and I just think everyone that I talk to, I don't think I've met a single person. And if you guys have, please let me know. But I've never met a person. I've never met a person who's met a person that says they wish they waited to invest in real estate, or they're glad that they waited an extra 3 years. It's just like it's like silly coming out of my mouth. But I mean, have you guys ever heard of anybody happy that they waited?
Not at all.
No, I feel like investing is a time game, and time is the greatest thing that you have on your side. The earlier you start, the better. Allie and I know a couple people that are in their very early 20s. Our friend Kate is 21 years old, and he bought a triplex and has almost, I think, around $100,000 of equity in his triplex right now. Just mind blowing. I don't know many 21-year-olds that have a net worth of $100,000. So.
No, and that's it, right? Like that's the beauty of real estate is starting early, and that's like the beauty of the content and stuff that's out there today. Like, I mean, I'm not sure your guys' age, but I'm 30, and I first learned about real estate investing when I was like 23, 24, because of like listening to Brandon Turner and Josh Dorkin on the Bigger Pockets podcast. And these guys, right? Like they didn't get started until, well, they got started early, but they weren't as efficient because they didn't have people to look up to. All they had was some old school books. But now there's so much information. There's no way an 18-year-old should be out there not trying to invest in real estate. So that way, by the time they're 25, they're going to be set for life, And so I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, we have such a benefit in the United States to be able to have all these primary residence loans and whatnot. There's insane opportunities here that aren't available in the rest of the world in a lot of places.
Yeah, when specifically for military members, when they first start out, they're typically at a training base. So meaning they're probably going to be there for less than a year-ish or like not too long. And that's why I didn't start at my first training base, which I should have. Instead, I was listening to the people that were like, I would never buy a house in Enid, Oklahoma. What's in Enid, Oklahoma? And looking back now, I'm like, man, I should have purchased in Enid, Oklahoma, because there is a training base, and there is oil. There's more than just the military there. But had I listened to really just the books instead of the other people that were just like, oh, this place sucks, therefore we must not purchase in real estate, not having that investor mindset, that I could have been renting out that property for other pilots just forever. So yeah, it's getting, I don't know, a lot of people think that because they're in a transitory or like transient state that they shouldn't purchase, but they should always.
Well, Allie, I'll double down. I got a question to ask you here. Like, let's say you are planning on going to a military base, or even if you're like a traveling nurse and you've just got a station somewhere for 3 or 4 months, like, you could still buy a property there, right? And what that rule says about living there for a year is that your intent needs to be living there for a year. And if you ask any lender, it's if you have any sort of life-changing event, which would include a new job, you could then go do it again. And so if you're moving somewhere every 6 months, like somewhere totally different, you could actually house hack multiple times a year, which is just insanely efficient.
Yeah, you can. You said it right. The intent needs to be to live there a year. Now, that's going to be up to the person's own integrity, whether they're actually intending to live there a year. But point is, yeah, that those primary residence loans, so the primary residence being like you're going to move into the place and you have the intent to occupy it for a year, those are available. And they're, for us in the military, they're 0% down. There's also credit unions that are specific to firefighters or police or military, like Navy Federal, or firefighters. I think there's Firefighters First Credit Union or something like that offer in-house primary residence loans. There's also the 3% first-time home buyer that has a lot of, and with all these loans, and then there's the 5% conventional, that 3.5% FHA. There's all these loans, but even in those loans, there's all sorts of, not loopholes, that's the wrong way to say it, because that almost sounds like there's like a negative connotation, but there's all sorts of like fine print or like details that open up doors for you to be able to use them in all sorts of circumstances. So the mindset is not really like, can I buy this house? It's how can I buy this house? With what loan am I going to use? with what company am I going to go through, or what lender am I going to use, and what bank are they going to connect me with, and what does that bank have to offer? It's not everything's equal. It's not all cut and dry. There's so many exceptions.
Yeah, and one thing too, right, is like you mentioned all these different banks that you can go through, and a lot of people just think banks are the same, but they're not. Even if it's the same Fannie Freddie product, I don't know what it is, but rates are oftentimes different. The products are oftentimes different. So make sure that if you don't like what one lender is saying, go talk to three, four, five, six of them. And if you're getting the same answer from six, seven lenders, okay, maybe you're onto something there. But yeah, Kyle, have you done different kind of types of loans with different types of lenders?
I have. I've done all sorts of weird stuff. So my first one was the VA loan, cut and dry, simple. I didn't even know the difference between a lender and a bank, when I was buying my duplex. That's how sometimes you just got to jump in. Obviously don't do things that are unsafe, but sometimes, you're not going to have the whole picture solved when you start the journey. But I did my first one with the VA loan. I did my second one with the FHA loan. So that's 3.5% down with the intent to occupy it for a year. So, I mean, I think that triplex that I bought as my second one, I think it was, $14,000 to buy it. And I've done other stuff since then.
Amazing. Yeah, let's we're going to want to hit on all these deals, at least briefly, but we are going to want to do our, Allie, you know what time it is?
It's time for the
For
real
deal.
deal.
All right, Kyle, this is the first deal that you ever do, and it's what kind of makes you a true real estate investor. I know you said you started in 2019. You wish you started earlier, and you went with just the straight VA loan. I want you to get into this deal, but real quick, I was on a group. I was speaking to a group of like mastermind people, like 60 people, the other day, and they were all newbies, and they were asking me all these different types of questions about creative financing and subject to and wrap mortgages and all of these different very advanced strategies of real estate. And the guy who's running the mastermind, his name is Daniel Kwok. He was like, dude, like keep it simple for your first one. And I just heard you say that you just did it, kept it simple. You didn't even know the difference. Don't try to go crazy with subject to. Don't try to hit a home run in your first deal. Just like start understanding the mechanics and understand how to actually do a deal for your first one. All right, Kyle, tell us what you did, because it sounds like you took my advice prematurely on keeping it simple on the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a kind of a cool story. So in 2019, I was like, you know what? When my lease ends here in about February, March timeframe, I'm going to have a house purchased, right? So I decided on that. And then I went under contract on a duplex here in town. The duplex had been sitting for 45 days. I offered full asking price on it using the VA loan. Nothing fancy, nothing aggressive. Like you're saying, it wasn't any of these advanced strategies. I was under contract on it. And about like a week after being under contract on this house, I was told that I was deploying in 48 hours to the Middle East with some stuff that was happening out there. So I ended up putting power of attorney to my buddy, giving my buddy power of attorney, and then I ended up deploying. And then while I was deployed, apparently he closed on the house for me, right? I came back. I moved into the duplex, trying to figure out how I was, renting this thing. What are leases? What are all these things, right? I had no idea what I was doing. I moved into the duplex and I lived for about $100. The couple on the other side of the duplex from me that I was renting to paid for the entire mortgage except for $100. So not knowing anything, not even being in the country for it, I ended up moving myself that much closer to financial independence and financial freedom. It's awesome.
That's amazing. Can you describe to us like what a power of attorney is and how your buddy was able to help you there?
So essentially it just gives them certain rights. And there's different types of power of attorneys, but I just went into the legal office at the Air Force Base. You can do the same thing by going into any sort of attorney's office and being like, hey, this is my situation. This is what I need to happen while I'm gone. Or these are the several things I need to happen while I'm gone. And then they will write up the correct power of attorney for you that allows someone else to act in your stead while you're absent or not able to do that action yourself. So in my case, I said, hey, I need power of attorney to my buddy so that he can close on this house for me. And so they wrote up the correct paperwork for me on that.
And this is obviously somebody you trusted highly, right? It wasn't just like a friend you met last week.
No, I've known the guy for 10 years. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So power of attorney, like you kind of, it's a very serious thing. You don't want to just give that to anybody. They are basically signing in your behalf. Yeah. Awesome. So it's amazing that you were able to figure out how to make this work in such a short amount of time. I mean, you had 48 hours before you were leaving, and you had to go to an attorney's office, get a power of attorney, assign it to your buddy, and then still go through and close the deal. So like when you were away, how do you analyze, like how do you go through the inspection report, right? Like how do you do all this stuff? Like were you able to, or would you just leave it to your buddy?
I did. I mean, I had Wi-Fi out there where I was at, but I did rely heavily on my team. So my buddy was part of my team, you could say. My buddy, he also had owned a house before, and yeah, so he had done a couple, I guess you could say, deals, but he was just a homeowner. But he understood the process, so I relied on him a lot. I relied on my real estate agent, and then my lender a lot too. So you do have to rely on people in this game of financial independence. And if you have good people on your team, then they give you a lot of good information, and you can rely on them to pass you that information, which is what I did.
Yeah. And so how did you find this team? Let's
see. So firstly, I reached out to a lender. That was my first action. I made mistakes along the way. So I signed up for I think Rocket Mortgage or one of these mainstream mortgage companies on their website. And I just got berated by 10 to 15 mortgage lenders, blowing up my phone and within the hour. And I was like, oh, that was a bad decision. So I was listening to a podcast at the time talking about buying houses and talking about financial independence. And so I reached out. It was called How to Buy a Home by David Sidoni. And I reached out to David Sidoni, via email and said, hey, I love your podcast. Can you connect me with someone that you trust in the Arizona area, right? He connected me with a lender in Phoenix, Brian Arvizu with Next Gen Financial Services. And he connected me with a realtor here in Tucson, Victoria McGullum from McGullum Anderson Group. So that's how I kind of met my team. It was through hey, I trust you because I've heard you talk. Do you know someone who could help me in Tucson? Oh, okay. And then once I got that person, hey, do you know someone that you can trust? Because rock stars work with rock stars, right? Lazy people typically like to work with lazy people, and high earners, high burners like to work with people of their same caliber as well. So that's kind of the avenue that I went, kind of networked my way into having a team, you could say.
Yeah. So how long was your deployment? And so you purchased the property while you were, well, rather your buddy purchased the property while you were deployed. And then how much more time did you spend out there before you then came back to the States?
That's a good question. I closed on the property in March of 2020. So right when COVID was at its height. I closed on it at March 17th, basically. And then I got back at the end of April. So there was a good almost month and a half that I was still deployed before I got back. And that's not an issue, especially when you're using the VA loan or you're using one of these loans. They understand that there's extraneous circumstances and whatever the case is. I don't even think they asked me to provide additional paperwork as to why I delayed.
Yeah. And with the VA loan, as long as you occupy within 60 days, that's typically the norm. Otherwise, they'll just ask for a letter explaining the circumstances. Okay. Because I was thinking maybe you were deployed for longer than that. And then the house may have just been vacant. So I wanted to go into that. But that's good that the deployment wasn't too long. It was enough for you to have a successful purchase. And you come back and then back to, at that point, the power of attorney expires, right? Can we talk about the expiration of the power of attorney?
Ooh, I don't know on that, honestly. I don't recall what the expiration was on it. And even now, I don't know what that would be.
He could still have power.
He could. Oh, no.
Might want to look into that.
He could buy me all the houses. That'd be great.
Yeah. Kyle looks back and his buddy now actually owns all of his properties.
Yeah. I should check that paperwork.
Yeah, Kyle, let's get into the numbers a little bit on this first one. So, where was the property? What did it look like? I know you used the VA loan, so 0% down, but what was that monthly payment? What were you collecting in rents? All that good stuff.
Yeah, okay, for sure. So this property is a side-by-side brick duplex, really simple looking, nothing fancy about it. The left unit is a 1-1, so it's got 1 bedroom, 1 bath. The right side is a 2-1, so a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. It was listed for $265. I offered $265. By the time I closed on it, the VA loan lets you wrap a lot of the additional fees and things into it, closing costs and those sort of things. I ended up closing on it at $271. So I think it was $6,000 of fees and closing costs that I assumed. The initial mortgage on it was about, I think, $1,280. The lease that was already in place on the right side of the duplex, I moved into the left side of the duplex when I got back into country. The lease in place there was about $1,150 or $1,160 or so. So just I was out of pocket, just a little bit over $100. And then once that person's lease ended a few months later, they were on a month-to-month, so they decided to end the lease. Someone else came in there and rented it for about $1,250. So pretty stinking cool. And then I ended up refinancing it later on.
So you were living in the 1-1 side while renting out the 2-1 side, totally cash flowing. And this is 2019. This isn't that long ago, and it was a long-term rental. And did you say this was in Tucson, or where was this at?
Yeah, Tucson. Yeah, in kind of near the university area, so just northeast of the university by like about 10 minutes or so.
And what about utilities? Were water, was water separated?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when as you guys probably know, I don't know if all our listeners know, but like when you take over, when you buy property, you take over the existing leases. So that's something to keep in mind. You can have your realtor potentially send you those leases before you close, so you have an idea of what you're agreeing to, but you take over those leases and you assume those tenants. In the case of that duplex, everything was metered separately. So gas and electric were metered separately, but water, sewer, trash is all combined. That's just how the city of Tucson runs it. So I paid for water, sewer, trash, which isn't very much. And then the tenants paid for electric and gas. That's how it initially started. Now I just include a fee for water, sewer, trash to the tenant. But like I've said before, you don't have to have it all figured out when you first start. You don't have to have the perfect lease or the perfect, spread of utilities or any of these items. You can work your way up to excellence in what you're doing.
I love that you said that, Kyle, because I don't think any of us knew what we were doing when we started. When I was doing rent by the room, I would literally go in and add up the water sewer bill, add up the electricity bill, divide it by 5, and actually Venmo people every single month for the exact amount. And that was like the bane of my existence every month. I absolutely hated doing it. And then I did exactly what you did, right? I was like, oh, I'll just charge a utility fee on top of it. And like, some months you win, some months you lose, but like overall, you probably nets out to plus or minus $10 on the year. And like, you don't have to worry about it. And so, yeah. And did you ever notice anyone taking advantage of that? Letting a toilet leak or letting a water run because you were paying the bill?
I did a little bit, but not anything substantial. And especially with water, sewer, trash, that's just such a small fee in comparison. Electricity would be something you'd want to be a little bit more careful about because electricity bills can get pretty high. For a 2-1 here in Tucson, they can get up to $200 if you're not careful. But water, sewer, trash, especially since it was combined for the property, right? I'm living in one side, tenants are living in the other side, and it was about $150 for both sides combined, right? So I'm also, covering my costs as well living there. And that's the whole concept of house hacking, just like living in a place, but getting rental income from the place that you're living in to lower your expenses. So it worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah. And then, so you said that those tenants that were living in the 2-1 moved out. Can you talk about the process of finding new tenants? How long was it vacant? And, where did you advertise that property to get other tenants in?
Yeah, absolutely. So at that time, I didn't have any software. I didn't have anything, fancy like you. I was accepting Zelle payments, that sort of thing. And that's totally cool when you first get started, as you guys know. I ended up listing it on Zillow. I just took some cell phone pictures, which I don't recommend. Always get professional photos taken. But I took some cell phone pictures, listed on Zillow, and someone And I didn't list it too high. I listed it from a reasonable amount. I probably could have gotten 1,450 or 1,400 at the time for that apartment. I listed it for 1,250 or so. And then I got, 3 or 4 applicants right away. I made the min credit score 630. I made sure that they had 3 times the amount of income from their W-2 job as the rent was. So I vetted them that way. And then I think I called their references. I asked for 3 references and I called their references. And then I sent them a lease using HelloSign or DocuSign or PandaSign, or, there's all these Dropbox sign. There's all sorts of lease sending or, document signing software. So I used one of those and then collected money with Zelle. So that's really the long division way. That is the old school Stone Age way of doing it, but it totally worked. Totally worked. I still got that money.
Did you say the long division way?
Yeah. Instead of
Is that old school?
Yeah. Instead of using a calculator, you're like mapping it out.
Or Alexa.
Oh, dude, or Alexa. Okay, fair enough. I was like, I definitely learned long division in school. I'm like, man, am I officially old? He had me scared there.
You're trying to do the hand math. You're trying to figure it out. Yep. So, but it works.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to your point of just get started, just do it and figure it out along the way. You might lose a couple $100 a month, but you're going to be gaining tens of thousands of dollars a month in all the different ways of building wealth through real estate.
Oh my gosh, I've got awesome equity in that property. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you bought it in 2019, which obviously you didn't know at the time. Actually, you bought it at the top of the market, right?
Yeah, full price offer. Yeah, I didn't have amazing credit. I got, a less than desirable interest rate on it. Guess what? It still works out.
Yeah, everyone said in 2019 the market was going to crash, but you bought anyway. And so you mentioned that you refinanced this property. And so where does that property stand today?
So yeah, I bought it obviously putting 0% down. So that's 100% loan to value. In lender terms or whatever, 0% equity. So I put no money into the property. I financed everything to buy this property. I refinanced it with a 20% down conventional loan, having also put no money into it in 2021. So 1 year later, actually to the day, 1 year later, it had 20% equity in it.
And you didn't do anything to it. That was just straight market appreciation.
I did some small things. I added a washer and dryer to one of the units. I repainted and I fixed some ugly shiplap that was on the wall by putting some drywall over top of it, but nothing substantial. Absolutely nothing substantial. I didn't redo the roof. I didn't, redo all this stuff. No, I probably put less than $5,000 into it.
Wow. And so I mean, you definitely got a little lucky, right? But that's fine because you put yourself in a position to be lucky, right? I think anybody who invested in real estate in the past few years has gotten lucky, and that's why we're kind of shouting on the top of our lungs to do it. And you may not get lucky in the next 5 years, but you'll still be better than you are today.
We hope this episode is inspiring you to take action. If you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent or an agent who wants to join an investor-friendly team, just hit me up on Instagram at the Fi Guy, because we are growing our team in Denver, Seattle, San Diego, and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but also adding to our network in all 50 states. And if you didn't already know this, the Fi team provides a super supportive environment with one-on-one coaching, accountability, and ongoing training to help develop kick-ass, rock star, investor-friendly real estate agents. So hit me up on Instagram at the Fi Guy, shoot me a DM, and we'll set up a time to chat. Can't wait to chat with you.
And so, okay, so what did that refinance look like? Now, what's your mortgage look like, after the refinance, and what are you getting for rent today, and how much do you think it's appreciated in the past, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, those are all good questions. So I bought it for 270, or 271, like I said. In 2021, when I refinanced it, it appraised for 345 or so. I can't remember the exact number, which ended up being around 20% down. And then nowadays, I bet you I could sell it right now probably for 360, 365 probably. So about $100,000 more than I paid for it initially. So probably around $100,000 of appreciation. I haven't run comps or done any of the realtor stuff on it, but point is it's pretty close to $100,000 of equity in just a few years. My mortgage right now, with taxes, insurance, and everything, is $1,380. I rent the left side. It's vacant right now, but the guy who just moved out of it, I just had it repainted and everything. The guy who was there that just moved out was paying $1,200 on the left side, and on the right side, I have someone in there for $1,350 and a $50 pet fee, so $1,400. Pretty close to $1,000 of uncorrected cash flow, meaning like, just pure not saving for future expenses, not vacancy or maintenance or those sort of things, but uncorrected. Yeah, it's pretty great, and like I said, I didn't do anything fancy. I didn't even know what I was doing when I bought this thing.
Yeah, and you just bought. That's the thing. And I think that's the main point. And people are saying, "Oh, 2019 is so different than 2023," and maybe it was, but 2023 is going to be a lot different than 2028. And so if you start buying now, you're going to be very happy 2028 that you bought now. Cool. All right, Kyle. So tell us. Let's move on to the next one here. How long were you in that first one, that duplex, and then when were you able to pick up the number two?
So here's the thing. So number 2 and 3 are weird because number 2 was a triplex that I bought in the ghetto. So I made a mistake. I bought in a bad area that I didn't feel comfortable owning property in. I did it because it was off market. Someone passed me the lead and I was like, oh, this is cool, right? So that was a bad move for me. I ended up moving into that triplex in 2021, started working on it, renovated one of the 3 units, but after being threatened by the neighbors, music being played till 1 a.m. every single night, feeling, endangered with drug addicts like on the corner, I was just like, you know what? I don't like this thing. I'm going to sell it. So I sold it, lost about, $5,000 on the whole thing. I lost, 3-4 months of my time, and I got out from under it. And that was the best move I've ever made, even better than buying my first property. I just got out from under it.
Did you buy it as a house hack?
Yep. I bought it with an FHA loan about a year after I purchased my duplex here in Tucson. It was also in Tucson, but it was in a C- neighborhood, D+, if you rank it from A to whatever. So go ahead.
And so, but what happened? Like, what did the lenders think about that? Because you committed to live there for a year, and you didn't.
Again, no issues. I don't know what paperwork we ended up putting in at the time, because I just told my lender, hey, this is what I'm doing. Can you help me with the paperwork? I'll sign what I need to in order to make this happen, And so he drafted up paperwork justifying what the situation was or whatever the case is, and we ended up submitting that paperwork. So yeah, there's legal ways to work in the system and make sure that you keep yourself safe.
Yeah. And that's the importance of, one, being clear with your lender of what your intentions are. Like, hey, I moved in here, like you helped me buy this house hack or whatever, and I don't feel safe. Like I literally can't even sleep. There are extenuating circumstances where you would be able to move out and purchase something else. And number 2, that's what I tell all of my clients is, especially if they're already in the local area, view the property late at night. Go there late on a Friday night, late on a Saturday night, and do you feel safe? Do you want to live there? If so, then yes, let's make an offer. Otherwise, that's what I tell all my clients to do. If you're in the local area, before you even send me a property, it's expected that you would have driven past it already. Bonus points if you drive past it on a Friday, Saturday night, but even during the day, you might realize, actually, I don't know if I feel comfortable with this area. And then if they're like out of state, there are websites to check too, like spotcrime.com, all of that stuff. So yeah, it's so important because neighborhoods can change, like neighborhood to neighborhood, street to street. Like that's in Tucson, that's in San Francisco, that's everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the lenders, they don't want to be responsible for, if something were to happen to you because you had to live there for a year. Now it's kind of on them because, like they don't want to live with that. And so, again, it's all about the intent to live there for a year. You did intend to live there for a year. You felt unsafe. I've got someone that was in a course that I was part of, and she actually bought like 2 house hacks in 2 or 3 months because she bought a house. It was in an unsafe neighborhood. There are registered sex offenders on the street that she was in, and she felt extremely unsafe as a single woman living in this neighborhood. And so she gave the lender all the evidence, and he's like, yeah, well, you can buy another house. And so she went ahead and bought another one and she didn't even sell it. Like you sold it. She didn't even sell the house. She's still renting it out. And so I have to say, like, you probably can't use that every year. I say, like, you kind of get one get out of jail free card with that. Like, you can't take advantage of it.
But in that situation, absolutely. So Kyle, good on you also though, man, for kind of like taking a bite of that humble pie in 4 months and realizing that you made a mistake and just like disposing of it. Because I tell you what, I don't think that I could have done that on my second property. I probably would have been trying any way to make it work. Or maybe I would have moved out and kept it and then dealt with all the hassles because like I would not want to lose money and time. So good on you, man. That's big.
You know what? I I struggle with that as well. I was like, man, it was because it almost felt shameful, right? Like I lost at this game called real estate, right? Like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to tell people? All these like weird thoughts in my head because I just felt like I'm so new to this thing. I'm trying so hard. I just read these books and they told me that this is the way that I can achieve financial independence for myself and my future family. And I felt ashamed, but I also read in those same books that like if you are in a situation where you're either going to lose a little bit of money now or you're going to lose a lot of money later, lose the little bit now, recover and keep charging. You know what I mean? So I a lot of this stuff is not like how you feel about it. It's like what did the experts say in these books and these guys that like have done this and achieved financial independence, do what they say, like don't think about it too much. Just like if they say it works, do it. Right. So I sold that triplex and I started living with one of my buddies in his spare bedroom. And then a fourplex across the street from my initial purchase, my duplex came available and I had to figure out how to buy it. And that was the property I used to recover from the shame of like, kind of failing with my triplex. And that was tough because I was down on money, right? So I had to figure out some creative ways to borrow money and figure it out. But that is now, it's a tie between my duplex and my fourplex, which are the better purchase. They're both awesome. So if I was still in that triplex, I would not have had the money to buy the fourplex. You know what I mean? So it was really, really awesome that I'm not trying to give myself cool points, but I'm really thankful that like there were books out there and education podcasts like this that told me, hey, get out from a bad situation so you can open up opportunities for yourself again.
Yeah, I think I love that. Like opportunity cost is a real thing, right? Every dollar you spend on that triplex is $1 you're not investing somewhere else. And yeah, I love that you were able to do that. So let's get into that quadplex that you bought. What are the numbers on that one? How did you come up with that down payment? And spill all the tea.
For sure. So this one is super cool. So this fourplex is actually like a sleepy fiveplex. So like it actually has 5 apartments in it. They just knocked down a wall and ripped out a kitchen between 2 of them, right? Made it a fourplex, sold it as a fourplex so that they could have a bigger buyer pool. So what did I do? Built the wall back up, put a door in between the 2 apartments, put a bookcase in front of the door on both sides. Now it's a multi-generational fourplex, but I can rent it as a fiveplex. And Tucson has ordinances in place where that stuff is allowed, and they're really cool about it, because we have a housing problem here in Tucson, as the nation does, but they've done something to help us out with it. So point is, I now have it as a fiveplex, and I'm renting it out as a fiveplex. I bought it for $400,000. I furnished all the apartments in the fiveplex. I'm still working on 2 right now. They're kind of blown up inside right now, ripping out ceilings and walls and stuff like that. But I've furnished 3 out of the 5 so far, and I rent them to travel nurses for about, per apartment, $1,400 during the summer and about $1,800 for the winter. And these are studio apartments. So total, when I'm finished with it, I'm planning for it to net a little bit over $9,000 per month in net rents, and then expenses will be about $3,500 per month. So pretty solid cash flow on this place. It just takes more to manage because I'm renting it out to traveling healthcare professionals, and they stay for 13 weeks total for their contract. Their contracts are 13 weeks, a little bit over 3 months. So it takes a lot more time on my part to manage, but the cash flow is a lot better. So it's a trade-off. So that's what's called a midterm rental. So anyway, point is, this property is really cool. I luckily found myself a fiveplex that was listed as a fourplex, and then I added to it in order to make it a fiveplex.
And you mentioned this is like 10 minutes away from a major university. Is it near any hospitals or anything like that as well? So like why the medium term? Why'd you go that route?
Yeah, so it's near the university. So there's, if I do want to rent to students, that's always a backup plan. I don't prefer to rent to students. It's in between two hospitals. It's 10 minutes from Tucson Medical Center and 5 minutes from Banner main campus here in Tucson. So that's important to always be within two hospitals. I tried to buy properties like in the middle of two if I'm going to make it a travel nurse or a traveling healthcare professional place. But there's all sorts of people. There's digital nomads that'll stay with you if you have, high speed Wi-Fi or fiber optic. There's a place for them to do their work. I've had people that had family members in the hospital that were either on their deathbed or undergoing some sort of treatment plan or surgery or something that they needed to be local to support them. So they rented from me for a month and a half. But it's a trade-off because I have very flexible lease terms, but a high price. Does that make sense? So like in order to compensate for my turnover cost and my furnishings and all the things I start them with, the saran wrap and the pots and pans and all the Airbnb supplies that I start them with, it has to be a higher price, and people understand that, and so they still leave 5-star reviews despite the high price because of the flexible lease terms and based on the product that I'm offering. So I don't do that with all my properties, but I do it with my fiveplex, and it's been working out really well.
And you're managing this yourself, it sounds like.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then what about the duplex across the street? Like, if it works for the fiveplex, wouldn't it work for the duplex? Would you consider switching that to medium term?
I've considered it just because the duplex already makes such great cash flow. Also, there's other things to consider when you're setting up a midterm rental. You need a storage area in order to store your Airbnb supplies, or I just call it Airbnb supplies, but you know what I mean. You need it to probably have a little bit higher security because people are there for such a short time. So like any sort of like maybe a homeless guy is looking through their fence or whatever the case is, that could be like a bad review for you. Those sort of things. So it just makes sense for me, with all things considered, to keep my fiveplex as a midterm rental pad, and then for my duplex to be long-term rented. Also, my fiveplex doesn't have a lot of split utilities. It has split electricity, and that's it. So it has combined gas, combined water, sewer, trash. So it just, for me, makes sense to have everything in my name. And then I also have some future plans for the place. I'm putting solar on it to get the 30% tax credit, things like that. So there's some other things that I'm considering down the road with it.
And do you think you're going to continue with the medium term here, or is that just kind of like a shorter term play for the next couple of years, and eventually, you'll bring it to long term when the rents catch up?
You can never forecast what the future holds. You can just forecast that you're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to change strategies. So the way that I'm investing now is not the way I'm going to be investing in 20 or 30 years, and that's totally cool, right? I'll have to sell my furniture. I'll have to, whatever the case is. I think for right now, I'm just going to keep doing it until it stops working. I really do enjoy renting to traveling professionals, hearing their stories, feeling like I'm contributing back to society and not just, making money for myself. So there's kind of tangible and intangible benefits for me to renting to traveling professionals. So I think I'll continue doing it. I do enjoy it. And I think that there is a continuing market in it, especially if you're able to set up your own marketing, your own website, your own direct booking software, payment system, and then getting your name out there, creating a brand for yourself on Instagram and getting on, some different marketing websites and things like that. I think that there's a market for it.
Yeah. Is that what you're headed toward now, or do you already have your own website? Where are you marketing your properties now?
Like I've said before, I don't have everything figured out, and I don't want to come across as someone who has things figured out, because I don't. I'm working on it. I have a really rough website right now. I have one that was generated for me from my from HostAway that they provide you. HostAway is a property management software for short-term rentals. I'm trying to make that software work for midterm rentals, and it's kind of clunky right now, but they're doing better and they're improving it every day. So they provided me with a website. I'm now going to pay Boostly, which is a company that will dope out a website for you and customize it for what you need it for. So they're going to take my host away website that they created for me, kind of a basic, direct booking website. And then they're going to help me make it to what I need it to be for midterm rentals. And I'm hoping to also get my friends' properties on there as well. I want to, get your properties on their alley, and some of my other friends as well, get their properties on there, so I can have a larger portfolio to bring to a hospital staffing agency, or bring to a construction staffing agency, or whatever the case is, some sort of movie that's being filmed in town. I want to bring it to them and be like, hey, we have a portfolio of 60 homes on my website that you can place your people in.
I love that you're kind of like you're deciding to niche out and like attack this business rather than just like throw it up on Furnish Finder. Because I know that Furnish Finder, I feel like people just keep undercutting. It's like a race to the bottom with that. But yeah, the real money is definitely made in the insurance agencies and the construction companies and all that stuff. So that's amazing.
Yeah, eventually I'll get there. I don't have it up and running yet. I've been trying, and it's going to take time. Right now I am, pounding the ground on Furnish Finder, trying to get people in, and it's been working. It's this whole thing is not a matter of like if it works or not. It's not black and white like that. It's how is it working? Is this working well? Can I optimize better? How can I adjust? How can I pivot? How can I improve? Those sort of things. So that's what I'm doing. What I'm doing right now is working. I'm sure there's 1,000 ways it could work better. I'm just going to find one that I enjoy, and that I can sustain. And I think doing some marketing for myself and having my own website and helping out my friends, and doing it all together is the way I'll sustain doing this for the next 20, 30 years.
All right, Kyle. So, first 3 properties, right? Seems like you kind of figured it out. I know you got one more. We are coming towards the end of the show. I do want to hit on it real quick just because there is just one more. And I want the listeners to really get a full idea of your story from 2019 here to 2023. And so let's talk about this last one a little bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So this last one was more of a property out of necessity. So my parents needed help financially, in their later years. So they needed a place to live. So I went out searching for a property that I could essentially house hack my parents. So I found a nice single family house in a golf course neighborhood here in Tucson. And I took the master bedroom and bathroom and I sectioned it off from the rest of the house. So I bought the property. I sectioned off the master bedroom and bathroom from the rest of the house. Again, put a bookcase on both sides of the door, soundproof the door, and put an exterior entrance into the master bedroom bathroom. And then I flipped the master bedroom bathroom and turned it into an Airbnb. So new flooring, new everything inside, made it look beautiful inside there, furnished it, and then put it on Airbnb. Now my parents manage that Airbnb, and it provides about 90% of my mortgage for that property. So the property I purchased for $316,000. The mortgage on it is about $2,500 a month or so. And then I typically get about $1,800 to $2,200 per month on Airbnb for that property. So I essentially am recouping my costs to take care of my parents from that Airbnb that I set up from a wing of the house. So that was, kind of that whole thing kind of just came from necessity, right? Got to help out the family. How are we going to do it? Well, I know real estate, and real estate, housing costs is people's like largest expense typically. I'm like, well, what if I eliminate that cost for them? Will that take care of them? Yes, it will. All right, let's do it.
That's amazing that you're doing that for your parents, man. I think like giving back is a huge thing, and a lot of times, I guess, what did your parents think about when you started investing in real estate? Like, were they scared, or like, were they supportive?
I think they were supportive because I told them about, renting from my buddy in pilot training and how he was recouping his money by renting to me. I was paying for his house for him. And so I think they got the picture, and they saw what I was doing with my duplex, and they saw how much fun I was having with it too. So they were actually very supportive, and they still enjoy being involved in my real estate. They're still working the Airbnb, cleaning it and having it, keeping it up. My mom even helps me reach out to some people on Furnish Finder as well and get them in there. So she helps me because she's now retired. So yeah, no, it's a great thing. I wouldn't always recommend involving family in your business. I think there's a fine line there. I think you have to be careful there. But in times that it makes sense or in times that you need to, especially if like you can help them with housing, and get them into one of your properties and whatever the case is. I mean, it depends on the person though. But for me, it's working out really well. And I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to do so. And, we talked about lending before. My lender helped me reach out to a bank and told them my story. And I was able to purchase that property with a 5% conventional primary residence loan that my parents fulfilled the obligation to live there a year for me. And we have that all doped out on paper that is the game plan, and the bank agreed to that. So there, like I've told you before, like as you guys know, it's not all black and white. It's not if this can happen, it's how this can happen. What person do I talk to? What bank do I talk to?
That's crazy. So you can get a 3 or 5% down payment on a property that your parents can live there for you and still make that criteria. Could you then buy another one that you actually live in for 3 to 5% down, or do you not know?
Yeah, you could. Yep, because they're fulfilling that obligation for me by living there a year. And I did not co-sign with them. Their names are not on title or deed or on the note at all. So they're just fulfilling that obligation for me. And I could have went out and purchased another property. I'm just using my money right now to keep working on my 5-plex. So.
Dude, that's actually a game changer. So funny enough, I'm doing something similar. I'm building my parents a home down in Florida. And the idea was like, I'd refinance it out of the fix and flip loan and do the 20% thing. But man, if I can just say, hey, they'll live there for 5% down and we can refinance all that out, it's a game changer, man. You're just like, I'm going to look into that now. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, talk to a good lender. I hope that you have one. You probably do. Talk to your lender and just, what I always do, and I my lender and realtor probably hate me for this. I don't say, I don't ask them, what can we do, right? Hey, is this possible? I don't ask that question. I say, this is my intention. This is what I will do. How do we do this, right? Like, hey, I need my parents to help me get into this property with as little money down as possible because this is the amount of dollars that I have. I'm not ashamed. I say, hey, I only have this amount of money to throw at this property. I need to buy this property with this amount of money. How do we do this, right? And then they're professionals. This is all that they do. Like, this is their expertise. They find a way, or say, hey, that's not really going to work, but we could get a partner. We could get we could talk to a few banks and write a letter to the banks. We can write a letter to the owners of the property who are selling and see if they'll cover these sort of costs based on your story. There's just so many angles and so many options out there. It's awesome. It's awesome.
I love that. Awesome, man. Cool. All right, man. Well, this has been a lot of good stuff on the show. And honestly, my favorite part about it is that, like, for the most part, like, you kept it simple and then figured it out. Like, you got more complex as you went to, increase your margins, increase the efficiency of it, but you started simple. Before we head into the final part of our show, Kyle, is there any parting words of wisdom you'd like to give to our listeners?
No, I think they've got the message so far. It's just get started and then figure it out as you go and have fun with it. This is a team sport, and it's a lot of fun along the way. I'm close friends with Allie. She and I have an awesome network in Tucson here. She and I both started meetups here in Tucson, and we're just having a blast with it. So get into it and do it together, and it'll be a good journey.
Love it, man. All right, Allie, you know what time it is?
It's time for the
final four.
Starting with question number 1, Kyle, what book are you reading right now?
Ooh, I'm not currently reading a book right now. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts though. So there's a ton of podcasts available online, and I probably burn through 3 podcasts a day. I don't like reading, so I don't force myself to do so. I listen to audiobooks from time to time. I just don't have one that I'm in right now.
Yeah. What podcasts?
Ooh, so I listen to the Bigger Pockets podcast. I'm going through some of their older episodes, which are just as good as the newer ones. Don't feel like you have to, always listen to the newest podcast. I listen to a couple of those a day. There's also a couple on midterm rentals available. Furnish Finder actually has one themselves that they just made recently. I listen to that one. But I jump around a lot. It's not just like a set selection. I'm always trying to learn something new. I listen to Andrew Huberman a lot, a neuroscientist out of Stanford, trying to learn about human performance and how I can sleep better and eat better and just be a better human. So there's a lot of stuff I try to listen to. But yeah, I'm big into podcasts, and I'm thankful that the people that are listening to this podcast right now are doing so, because man, this is something that's offered to our generation. Listening to books and having the internet and having the full access of supercomputers and libraries in our pocket, so I think it's awesome.
Yeah, one thing I love about podcasts is that they're totally uncensored, right? Like I feel like you can't even trust the news media these days, because there's just too much money going around there that's influenced on what the news articles say and what the journalists are saying. So, but podcasts are raw. Like, you're getting people raw, and I just love this method of information.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's awesome. And again, we just no time in the history of the world has there ever been this much opportunity to learn this much information so quickly. I think it's going to really make our generation one of the greatest generations, or at least I hope so. I hope we utilize it.
For sure. All right, Kyle. Second question: what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I would say just the best advice I've ever received is probably just figure it out as you go. Like, don't let the fear in your heart stop you from doing what you know in your head is the best course of action. This real estate thing is so scary, guys. As you know, like I was so scared by my first property. I was so scared by my second, so scared by my third, and the fourth felt more comfortable. You know what I mean? But like, it works. So do it, right? Don't trust that fear in your heart. Trust what you know in your head, that this is something that creates millionaires and something that saves families.
Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah. That pretty much ties into, well, maybe question number 3. Why are you doing all this? What's your why?
I'm doing this for options. I'm doing this for opportunities in the future. I'm doing this for opportunities for myself, for my future family. I'm a single guy, but I won't be single for the rest of my life, right? I'm going to have a wife. I'm going to have kids in the future, and I want them to be well taken care of. And the only way that I can ensure that happens is if I hustle in my 20s and 30s and I make a way. I don't know if I'm going to continue buying houses through my 40s, 50s, 60s. Maybe I'll do something else. I don't know. But in the meantime, I know that this is the best way to open up opportunities and options for myself later in life. So we got to do it,
You hear that, ladies? Kyle is single.
Small plug. Hey, that's how I met my wife. I was on a podcast and she heard me on a podcast. So shoot your shot, man.
No way. Love that.
Yeah. True
That's
story.
Boldness.
Yeah, she'll have a different story, but I'm sticking to mine, and she's not here to defend herself. So, all right, Kyle. If you could replace the sound of any household appliance with your own voice, which one would it be, and what sound would you make?
You ask everyone this question?
No, it's always a random question.
I've been really into like blending stuff recently. Like when you get done with the gym, go back, blend like a protein shake or whatever, and man, it's ear piercing. So I'd prefer to listen to my own soothing voice. Probably not so soothing, but listen to my own voice instead of just 150 decibels of blender noise. That's probably what it'd be.
Okay, so you got to make the sound that you would make and replace it.
I'd probably go with blend, 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 blend.
That's perfect. I love it.
That's a good one.
That's really good. All right, Kyle, where can people find out more about you? And yeah, if they want to follow along with your story, or if they want to reach out and ask any more questions,
or go to your meetups.
Oh yeah, come to my meetups here in Tucson. Yeah, so. The best way to get a hold of me, and someone just did this on the Bigger Pockets podcast the other day, so this is why I'm going to do it. Honestly, just shoot me a text message or a phone call. My phone number is 661-347-5097. give me a call, shoot me a voice message. You can record your voice, shoot me a voice message, or shoot me a text. And I'd love to get to know you, see how we can help each other, or meet up here in Tucson, grab a beer together.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, definitely, guys, if you're in the Tucson area or just passing through the Tucson area, hit up Kyle, hit up Allie. And Kyle, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's been a pleasure chatting with you and getting to know you a little bit better.
Thanks, Kyle.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. It's been a good time.
And that was Mr. Kyle Swengel. Allie, what did you think of Kyle?
Kyle is such a good guy at heart. We met at, we've been friends for a couple of years now. We met through investing circles here in Tucson, not even through the military. We just both happen to be stationed at the same base. And hearing his story of how he acquired so many units in such a short amount of time, and in that short amount of time be able to help his family already, it's so inspiring. So it's always been like a friendly competition of just pulling each other up. Hey, here's this property. Actually, Kyle is the one who sent me my duplex that I purchased here in Tucson. He's like, hey, have you looked at this property? And so that's the reason I have one of my duplexes here. So it's so nice to be surrounded by people that are on board, because not everyone in the military is, not everyone in your W-2 is going to be into investing in real estate. So it's really nice to have those people in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it really just shows, it's a true testament to what Kyle's character is, because he has 3 properties and now his 4th one is helping his parents out. A lot of people, I think, would probably want to continue to scale before helping their parents out, right? Get in a good position and then help their parents. But he's in a decent position, and he's definitely with room to grow. But he saw his parents were in need, knows that he knows real estate and saw a way to help them. And I just, I applaud him tremendously for that. So, guys, this was a great episode. If you enjoy it, again, please leave us a rating and review. Let us know on Instagram that you're listening to the show and that you're liking it. I'm the FI guy. Allie is Allie the agent with underscores right in between each word. And so hit Allie up, hit me up, and everyone, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you all next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.